yeah, so the next speaker, and I typically stack 2 speakers. My ADHD entrepreneur brain says everything's going to go much faster and smoother than it ever does. We're always like an hour over time. So because this story is really fascinating to me and way up my lane of what I like to look at in the entrepreneur space, business owner space, and marketing as a whole, Austin and I met a couple months ago, and he came into my office, and another human that just leads with curiosity. I had no idea who he was, and he just asked me every question about my business ever out of pure curiosity, and that was really fascinating to me. And I was like, what do you do? And he was like, oh, I just did this thing with Jasper.ai, and it was pretty cool. And it was like no bragging, like leaving the conversation totally open for curiosity from my side, and then learning what he's doing and what he learned from that and the lessons that he can tell was just so fascinating to me. So love going to his events and stuff like that. We'll talk a little bit about it, but realistically, this is a human that has great stories that are able to increase the revenue. And as an entrepreneur, everything that I do and what I like to speak about on this stage needs to be valuable for everybody in here to be able to increase revenue or save on cost in some capacity. Entrepreneurship is all about driving the top and the bottom line. And so I want to empower everybody here to get the lessons and some tips and tricks like that. So without further ado, Austin, the former CMO of Jasper.ai. Come on up, brother.
So give it up for Connor. Connor's killing it.
No, that's too much applause for me. That's too much applause. I don't want my ego to get any bigger. So Austin, give me just a quick rundown of who you are, quick introduction, and we'll jump into the stories.
Cool. My name is Austin Distel. I live here in Austin, Texas. Every Uber driver has said that is unique, which I think there's a lot of Austins in Austin. So they say it all too often. I feel like they're communicating. I moved here with 7 friends to Austin to go after like the tech startup venture life. And that was really cool. After Y Combinator, we graduated and moved all here together. And that's been a journey. So Jasper is like one of the companies that came out of that same group. And I'm still very close friends with all those guys today. Yeah, and I love marketing. Like marketing, growing revenue, sales, entrepreneurship, freaking fired up. I could talk about it all day.
So we'll talk about the journey, obviously. But the moral of the story is that Austin was part of the founding team, the first team at Jasper.ai. In 18 months, they exited for $1.5 billion, so pretty decent exit for a tech company. Massive exit and a ton of revenue. And they were some of the first people to use AI for marketing, right? I don't know if you guys remember, they were Conversions.ai and then a short stint with a different name, and now Jasper.ai. And he was the growth metric. It was a team of what, 12? 18?
Yeah, so that 7 group added a few people, turned to 12, and then in 2020 when we got access to GPT-2, we decided to pivot and just see, like, over Christmas break, what could we build? We'll tell the Jasper story, but long story short, like he said, by the end of the first year, we closed $40 million in revenue. By the time that I left, we were over 60, and it's grown from there. Now Jasper like really serves the enterprise marketing. You know, think Home Depot and Nike and all those kind of big brands use Jasper. I left at the Series A, and so I guess my claim to fame is like, you know, helped acquire the first 100,000 paying users and the first like 65 million ARR.
Sweet. I'm trying to turn the bass down on this speaker. Sorry guys, this is a new speaker. We're just testing it now, as we do. So I don't know if you want to try to jump up there and turn the bass down if you see the thing, but so let's talk about Y Combinator. Combinator? Yeah. What is that?
YC is a startup incubator that's in Silicon Valley, Palo Alto. At the time, it was led by Sam Altman. He was involved in it. So, you know, think like Dropbox, Reddit, Airbnb, a ton of great startups came out of it. You basically have 3 months to live in a hacker house with your team and find product market fit. And by the end of 3 months, you go in there, we did winter batch, so it was like from February to May. And then on the last day, you have a demo day. And so you have all of the investors in the room. You get 2 minutes on stage. to raise your seed or series, and yeah, we raised like $2.5 million in, I call it like 20 minutes, really. And then we moved to Austin, all of us together.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
One thing I hate about the tech industry is like typically a lot of times they're like, hey, we have this very small idea, but we've assembled a really badass team. And we're gonna make so much money. It's like, but we're pre-revenue, pre-seed, pre-everything, pre-idea almost. But when it works, right? Like it works. When you have a badass team that works on one idea, they find product market fit, and then they sell it, it can work. But I think it's an interesting business model for like most business entrepreneurs and startups. Like that's not how that works, right? It's like you come up with an idea, you build some revenue, prove the theory, and then you grow it. But with insanely talented people, which it sounded like you had a room of insanely talented people.
Actually, we were the oddballs in YC. We got rejected the first time. They said, like, this isn't a big idea. Go back to the drawing board. It wasn't Jasper back then. We started this second software company in 2016. So by 2018, we were at like maybe 80,000 a month in revenue, and they thought like, these guys aren't like the sharpest ones in the group, but they figured out how to make money, and that's pretty ingenuitive. And they have a bigger enough idea that like we could. When they heard us say that we just turned on growth, they were like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, like you whip up a video sales letter, you do follow-up campaigns, you recruit some affiliates, and you turn on paid ads. Like we turn on growth. I'm like, that's interesting. What's your CAC to LTV ratio? I'm like, 1 to 2. And then I think certain campaigns you can get like 1 to 4. I'm like, interesting. So you're able to pay back in 2 to 3 months? Yeah.
A scalable business with revenue? I've never heard of that in the
So
seed space.
no, we weren't Airbnb, and we're not Dropbox, and we're not Reddit. Like we're not going to change the world in that way. But YC was like, well, bet on the jockey and not the horse. And if we get a safe safe round investment in these guys, maybe one day it'll turn into something, which years later it did.
So talk about me the very founding journey, and this is probably the most important part of starting a business is like that minimum viable product, trying to find product fit. You have a really good idea, but a Gary Vaynerchuk that I always love is like, you can't tell your audience or your clients what they're going to buy. They have to be able to tell you what they're going to buy. What did that look like in the founding days of coming up with Jasper.ai or Conversions.ai back then? And like, what was that minimum product? Was it similar to what you have now or what they have now, or was it a totally different?
So, that company that we got into YC with, it really stalled out at like $250K a month. We couldn't get past it for years. And it's just like the churn rate met the growth rate, and it wasn't something that we could get past. And so, Dave, the CEO, made the decision. It's like, hey, we gotta look at new technology, try to see what the next pivot looks like, and we hope to bring as many people along the ride as possible. And so over winter break, because of our YC connections, we got access to GPT-2. This is 2020. This is years before ChatGPT was even thought of. It was just an API, and all it could do was auto-complete your sentence. And so basically, in that winter of December, we spent that month tinkering around. And we're like, this is an interesting OpenAI tech. Like, what can we do with auto-complete your sentence? All of our team has been building marketing software. So we were like, well, what if we just solved our own problems? And we start there. And one of our problems was, how do we continue keeping up with Facebook ads' need for constantly needing new creative? How many of y'all need new creative all the time? It just feels like a treadmill, right? And so we're like, well, what if we could just have AI write great ad copy? Like David Ogilvy and Gary Halpert and all these copywriting greats. What if we train OpenAI's API on how to do that? This is before prompt engineering was the thing. So we called it commanding and seasoning the prompt. And you all know how to probably do this inside of tools now, but this is 6 years ago. And so our first use case was we automated writing high converting AI copy or AI ad copy with AI, and that was our first use case. We built a little Facebook group with marketing agency owners who said, hey, let us write your client's ad copy in the comments. It wasn't a software company yet. It was literally just let's prove this thing out. By January, we had a couple of people, they would post their clients' stuff in the Facebook group, and then we would reply back with great ad copy. Imagine copying and pasting right now from ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT wasn't a thing yet, right? And so we're here, our engineering team is taking the sandbox output and doing this huge prompt to then just give in a Facebook group that output.
But for a while there, that was really cool copy. You know, it's like people are like, wow, he speaks so eloquently, and now we're like, that's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So it's like, in the last 6 years, that has completely flipped over, I feel like.
Yeah. And so our very first customer was actually my roommate. He was, at the time, doing Amazon copywriting. So imagine that you have a bunch of SKUs that you're trying to get up on Amazon. He would just go and write the ad copy, the copy of that listing. So he was the first customer who said, hey, spend $100. Why? Because it's a round number and we don't know what to charge. But $100 today, and you're the first customer, and we'll custom build an AI use case for writing Amazon copy for your listings, just for you to scale your clientele. And it worked. He posted that into the group like, wow, this is insane. I've been able to double my client output, all of this. So we like solved the constraint. Next was like, okay, who else has a use case? We just kind of put it out there on Facebook. Who else has a use case that you all would like great copy? And reply back, and we will have AI generate it for you. And it felt like a magic trick, right? And so, the comments, imagine, comment down below, that's a big thing now. It wasn't back then. So getting 200 comments on a post was insane. And that was the viral loop. Again, we didn't have a product yet, right? This was just sandboxing and testing, seeing what the market liked. Now we go into January, this is about 14 days later, and we say, hey, we're gonna make this officially a product, and we're gonna call it conversion.ai, because it was a domain that we bought like 5 years ago, and it's free for us now. So that's what we launched with, and it was like convert with AI, conversion.ai. Now, it's a pretty bad domain name, con.ai and all these other things came out of that. Stupid. But what also came out of that was a very interesting calling. By the end of 30 days, we're at 30,000 a month. By the end of 90 days, we're at 90,000 a month. And the community started calling us Jarvis. Like they're like, oh, I feel like I've completely unlocked, and I'm now like this marketing guy that has AI that's controlling all my ads, copy, emails, SEO, etc. And that was like, okay, cool. I'm not married to the name conversion.ai, let's change it. So Jarvis felt like, okay, we're giving it a personality. And you can probably guess what happened after that.
Personality came out, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us the story. What happened after that?
4 months later, big cease and desist from Marvel Studios saying, hey, we own the trademark to Jarvis, because Iron Man is in our portfolio. Our lawyers all said that that was fine, but an $80,000 domain goes to waste. And we had to then redirect about 100,000 backlinks that we got in 6 months. So that's how much marketing we were doing. And it was quite an SEO play, but I made it fun, right? Like with every hard time like that, whenever you have to pivot, make it fun. So I did this whole email campaign, Thanos snapped and like changed, and we ended up being like a parallel universe where now we're Jasper.ai. And it worked. In fact, we doubled in the next 60 days.
Let's go back to when you received the cease and desist. Who received it, and how big was the box that it came in?
I was in the middle of a bench press when I got the text from Dave Rogenmoser that said, hey, we got to change our domain name. We just got a Marvel cease and desist.
Brutal. And then let's talk about the pivot, right? So permission to pivot is something that I use in business a lot. Like you may have a name, a brand, a color scheme, a word or a quote that you use all the time and giving yourself permission to pivot. You guys were told to pivot. How did that rebranding process go, and how was that, like, what were some of the interesting things that happened with that?
I mean, a lot of SEO is so much about how many backlinks do you have pointing at your site, and are they high domain authority? So I hired an SEO agency purely just for backlink redirection, where we just needed to email like hundreds of people a day about like hand-holding them through the redirect, because they just wouldn't let us even keep that domain in our DNS anymore. So it was like, who are the highest traffic sites? What are the highest authority sites? And we like focus on those. It was a horrible 6-month process, but we retained 98% of our backlinks and kept our traffic. So SEO accounted for about a fourth of Jasper's growth.
So this is an interesting marketing play too. So at the very beginning, let's talk about when you first, like, how did that trend line go? Was it always kind of going upward? Do you have good months, bad months, all that kind of stuff? Or like, what were some of the trend lines were you looking at? Like active users, acquired users? Were there anything like that on the marketing side that you were looking at of bringing in the traffic, whether it's SEO, paid ads, and what were those metrics that you were watching?
Yeah, so as CMO, I think about like, how do I make every channel as effective as possible, not in a silo, but in working together, so that like the work is recursive. It keeps looping on itself. Like, how does SEO help with conversion, help with paid traffic, help with affiliate marketing, help with influencer marketing, social media? I want them all working together. And I did all of this with me and one other marketer on the team. And we were managing, by the end of year one, $48 million a year in annual revenue, growing by hundreds of customers a day. And so by the end of 18 months, we were at 100,000 paying customers. Thousands of people started, like more than that, started free trials. And so there's this one strategy that I can definitely say worked. And I think that most people in the room could probably use it. And I'm telling you why. You don't need a big team, but you need one person willing to be on camera, and you need one person that is willing to like be off camera and like technical and setting some stuff up. So here's the problem to solve. Every week we had a new marketing use case: email, SEO, paid traffic, etc. There's a lot of use cases in Jasper. How do I go to market with all of that? I just can't all at once. So if I'm going to win in the category, every Thursday I went live to promote the new feature. But if I had to create all that content myself, I would be overburdened and no way I could manage ads, SEO, email marketing, website development, and all of that myself, just with me and one other guy. So it's like, what would it look like if it were easy? This is a question I ask myself all the time. What would it look like if it were easy? Well, what if you turned a webinar into a podcast? What if you don't need slides and you just have really great engaging conversation? And what if you didn't have to create the content? What if you brought on somebody else who prepared that content? About your business, though. How would you do that? How would you incentivize somebody to do that for you, where every week your presentation's already made? Well, here's how you do it. Let's say, this Thursday, I wanted to crush it with email marketing as like our topic of choice. I would go and look at all the conferences in marketing, find the people that had email in their keynote talk, and I said, hey, I'd love for you to come on live with me and the Jasper audience and teach what you do best. I would love to promote you and what you teach on email marketing and provide a lot of value for our audience. And if you want to market it as like you're the AI-powered keynote speaker on email marketing, they freaking loved it. Think these are like some of the biggest names in the space. Now they come on, they deliver a ton of value. I say, at the end, I'm going to share how like we just developed an email AI marketing use case. You cool with that? They're like, yeah. And can I even influence the product development? Even better. Yeah, would love to get your playbooks inside of Jasper. So now every keynote speaker is coming in being the AI-powered person in their category, and they're sharing great insights with our audience. Okay, so we go live. What did that look like? Monday, email goes out promoting Thursday. Day before on Wednesday, email goes out promoting tomorrow. I go live. After that ends, that recording goes up, published on a landing page all about email marketing, great for SEO. Then I put that part of our email chain for every new lead to get. Okay, continues on. Now lead nurturing is ticked off. And then I have paid traffic running. Anybody that is interested in the topic of email marketing is now getting personalized ads all around AI for email marketing. So now that channel's going. And finally, affiliates. 25% of Jasper's growth was affiliate marketing. So I would then tell that keynote speaker, hey, do you have an audience of your own? Would you be interested in sharing this with them? If so, I'll give you 30% recurring revenue of all sales that get made through your training. And they all took it, hook, line, and sinker. Now, by the end of the year, I borrowed other people's audiences to grow my email list. I borrowed other people's knowledge to promote my product. And I used other people's time to build a video sales letter. And all I did was spend time recruiting a speaker, building a landing page, and adding it to all of my sequences. Now I have every channel optimized for just 1 hour of my time on a Thursday. And by the end of the year, we had a 1 million person email list. It's crazy.
A couple things, like I love how these events always come together. Like our first speaker that was supposed to do the first 7 minutes was a guy that unfortunately got stuck in traffic coming from Houston, and in the podcast studio, Abby comes up, which is a perfect parallel to what we're talking about now. Like these events always just have a perfect through line, and I love that. But one of the quotes I like to say is, if you walk into a bar and you yell, "I'm the best whatever company, mortgage company in America," everybody looks at you like you're a jackass, right? Every single person in the room is like, yeah, that guy's full of it. Kind of the similar concept to what I was talking about at the very beginning. But if you have someone in the corner that says, holy cow, that's Austin Distel, he runs the marketing for Jasper.ai, he's a stud, they already now have a preconceived notion of he's a stud from somebody else. You're being referred to him rather than him coming and telling you how impressive you are. And that 52-week podcast, basically, did that. You brought on speakers that were essentially referring you to their audience, and it was branded for for your company, obviously, specifically for the feature that you're releasing, but it's all value. You're teaching them how to use it from somebody else's lens, and allows them to point the finger right back at you and say, oh no, you're doing this, right? It's like, instead of you having to say, we're the best, we're doing this, we're the only people doing this, sign up, get your free trial now, like they're literally referring you on that camera, and there's magic in that. So I've ran like real estate and mortgage podcasts forever and interviews, and how many of you guys have shot videos for social media and posted on Facebook? Just show of hands. Probably 90% of the room. How many of you guys at the very beginning go, hi, this is Connor Cullup with this company, and this is what I'm doing for you right now? Immediately alienating 90% of the audience. Because you're positioning yourself in a place of authority, immediately putting their fences up that they're about to get sold. Versus going straight into value, that 5-second hook, creating the value up front, and then telling the story the rest of the time with good story. They're gonna know who you are, and if it's interesting enough, they're gonna click on their page and they're gonna find literally everything about you. And so having a place where, and then if you do that with a referral partner, you don't have to name them, you don't have to go through that 10 seconds of introductions, just talk about the value, deliver it quickly, and let them essentially refer you. The same thing happens on Facebook. If you interview somebody, add them as, this is a hack for you guys on marketing, add them as a co-contributor. It will get posted on their timeline as if they're posting it. You're hijacking their audience from scratch, right? You don't have to post it, you don't have to boost it to their list, you don't have to be friends with these people. Anybody that finds him now interesting, Instagram algorithm is gonna tie you to that as well, and you're literally on their timeline as a video. I've done this for builders, real estate agents, different channels, and you hijack their audience, and so they're referring you, they're literally talking about it. But if you are going on their page and just selling, it's a bad look, and it's gonna look bad for both of you, so just be real careful with that, it's fun. Going back to the very early days, you said like the first 30 clients. Let's talk about that process. Business is not always sexy. It does not always have to be perfect. Your minimal viable product is literally minimum for a reason, or should be. And I have this really bad tendency, Taylor and I were talking about this literally earlier today, of like, I talk about a minimal viable product, and then I go and like, we could do all of these things. And then I try to build all of these things, and they all suck. And I can't be really good at one thing, right? And so I do that every single time. I have to have that. For me, that person is someone who throttles me. Like, no, one thing. Shoot the one thing. What did that look like in the early 30 clients of like onboarding and payments, and how many times did the freaking system break? How many times did your marketing not exactly add up to what they requested maybe, or what they were sold? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up the number 30, because that is a special number in math, that after 30 you have enough statistical significance to understand something, a pattern of something. And so in YC, they talk about, talk to 30 customers a week because they're trying to speed up the acceleration of you finding product market fit. And one thing that like we had a motto of through all of the companies is like, you're gonna hunt your first 30 customers. You're not gonna farm them. You're gonna have on the front lines in the DMs, texting them, calling them, emailing them. Like it is not, oh, I'm gonna post on social media and get 30 customers. The first 30 is a hunt. The next 70 to get to 100 is gonna be maybe farming. But when we think about the first 30, like even as, I'm an okay marketer, and it's like, oh no, but we're gonna be in sales mode for the first 30. Like that's how we're gonna approach it. Because we wanna have long form conversations that extract understanding. Do you learn a lot from posting on social, or do you learn a lot from having an hour-long conversation? You learn so much more from a conversation. And so if in the beginning, you're willing to look stupid, that's the cost of success. The willingness to look stupid is the cost of success. So if you're willing to go and have 30 conversations and just be curious, and then they're gonna tell you what their problems are and you solve that problem, that's how you're gonna get your first dollars. So that first use cases of Jasper, we're like, hey, we have an AI that can write copy. Tell us your use case and we'll try to solve it for you. A lot of those conversations came from like our past customers. We're like, hey, we think that you would be a good fit for this. Can I interview you and see like what kind of content we can help write for you? And that was like the best way to grow. But it's also the only way that we could have grown. Because if you 10x'd your number of clients this week, could you service all of them? For real, for real. Like, could you actually service all of them? Probably not. Do you even have the bandwidth to onboard all of them? To even collect all that payment? So what is the limitation there? What's the bottleneck? Well, for a software company, normally that's not a bottleneck. But in the early days, we're just still testing. Like, we don't even have the infrastructure for a self-checkout. And so we just posted on social, hey, we're accepting 5 new members of our AI tool today. Do you want to be on the wait list? And we just keep growing the wait list in the comments section of Facebook. And then we eventually started building a Facebook group where they got a number assigned to them on what number they are in line to get access to our AI software. And that's not because we were just using it to like get frothy, very exciting anticipation. It's because like we were a small team of 7 people at the time, and we didn't have self-checkout. We definitely had a lot of manual processes, and we also wanted to learn. So in that onboarding call, we would then record it all, of course, and we'd ask so many great questions, but then we would reveal the use case. Like, okay, you want to write, email subject lines or Facebook ads or headlines for your blog post? Okay, watch this. And then their eyes light up and they're like, no way. Like as a professional copywriter, that's freaking good. And and that reaction, that little soundbite, was all I needed as a marketer. I didn't need to write any copy. I just needed that soundbite that I got from the customer success team. So by the end of 30, I compiled them all together, these like little tiny moments, 5-second, 3-second clips, into a 30-second ad, no product. And we posted it, and it was like, wow, this is the best copy I've ever seen. Oh my gosh, it just wrote that in 5 seconds? I'm literally gonna get so many more clients because of this. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm out of a job. Like, all these crazy, crazy affirmations. And I never showed the product. Probably for 4 months. And we got to $1 million in annual revenue without showing the product. So you don't need to even promote what you actually do. You need to showcase that other people are excited about what you do. And you are serving them, you are promoting by packaging their story. And I am choosing these clips that promote the use cases that we solve and the audiences that we help. All of that is true. It's not false. But I'm doing so through the lens that I'm gonna have my customers market for me, and I'm not gonna have to do it myself. And the best written copy is from your customer's mouth and not yours.
I have 2 things. One, if being successful takes looking stupid. I should be super successful because I look stupid a lot. And then 2, for that second iteration from the 30 to 100, those 70 clients, actually, let me take that back. What was an ad, like, during this journey, was there an ad that stands out to you that, like, when you posted it, you're like, maybe this will work because you've tried out a bunch of different ads and it just exploded. It blew up and surprised you as a team.
You know, we try so many ads, like so many creatives, that it's hard to point a finger at one ad. But what I can say is that if you're going to spend your time, focus on the headline. And if you're going to spend your time on a headline, make sure that it's on the landing page that matches. Because most people don't scroll down the landing page. And most people click an ad only because of the first few seconds, the hook in the headline. And so, like a few little things, and this is kind of like market directive, is like SEO is a higher converting audience than paid per click. There's more people that think about SEO than they do think about paid traffic. And so just as a market segment, that was like once we actually acquired another AI company just to be able to get a legacy AI model that OpenAI no longer allowed, that allowed long form written content. So we acquired our competitor just to be able to get a feature. And once we did that, we were able to grow into the SEO audience. Because at the time, we could only write one sentence. So like short form copy, Instagram copy, all of that was all that OpenAI's API allowed at that time.
How long into that journey did you acquire that company to get longer form?
Oh, like 4 months in.
So for the first 4 months, they were selling one sentence to how many people?
We got to over 100,000 a month with just finish the sentence. And because we got to 100,000 a month, we were able to acquire a lifestyle software company from a guy that lived in Bali who had a great legacy API, like OpenAI's GPT-1 or something that could write long form. And so,
I mean, that's a crazy sentence. I sold 100,000 people to buy my product from one sentence, being able to finish one sentence. That's a pretty interesting step. I like that. So going into, so no specific ads, how many ad copies do you think you guys ran?
oh, it's so good. Yeah. Hard to know.
One of my mentors, for any of you guys that are wanting to run ads, one of my mentors runs it through a certain program. He does basically 5 different titles, 5 different bodies, 5 different videos or images, and then runs versions of every single one. Meta will do this for you guys automatically. If you guys want to know how to do it, talk to Dan. He's a wizard at Meta. They change the system every 2 days, so I have no idea how to operate it anymore. But run it, like $5 on every single ad. It's going to cost you a couple $100. Find out which ones converted 1 or 2 people. Parse it down to those. Run those for another $20, $25. Parse it down to 2 or 3 ads, and then run those. And if they get a good cost per click, or delete the entire thing and start from the beginning. But it's really important to have a million different ways. That same concept of like, I can't tell my clients how they're going to engage or what ad copy they're going to engage with. And a lot of us, especially me, as like I love branding companies. Well, I want this to look a certain way, I want it to feel a certain way, and then I keep pushing out that same content, and it never really goes viral, nobody clicks on it, it doesn't move that well, it converts pretty good, but it's because I'm in love with the branding or the messaging versus what my clients want to resonate with, which is super important.
So the marketing team looked like I was creative, I was branding, I was post-click optimization, so think landing pages, think video content, all of that. And the other guy on my team, also on the founding team, named Austin Troyer, he is an incredible ad buyer. And so he's basically the analytics second half of the marketing suite at Jasper. And so what he really discovered, so as I said, somebody that's front of camera, somebody that's behind camera, this guy is like the technical ad buyer for Jasper. And he got us up to spending, by the time that we left, $1 million a week on paid ads profitably. That's crazy, $1 million a week. So after leaving Jasper, he went and grew a company you guys might know called School. And then he also helped with Hermosi's book launch, other things like that too. So running ads at scale is a really valuable skill that very few people are needed to run that at scale. Right, so the per person leverage cost is so enormous. It's the small hinge that swings a big door. Today, Troyer runs he built an AI software tool to automate ad creative at scale for Meta for brands that spend $100,000 a month or more. And so as you think about like ad creative at scale is the hard part, it's the limiting factor. What if you just dumped all of that into meta ads, and then every single week it extracted the highest converting ads, made more like that, and then dumped the lowest converting ads into the trash, and learned along the way where week by week it improves itself. That's what he built.
Real quick, for those of you guys that are standing in the back, there are chairs around the corner there, like rolling chairs. You'll be a little low, but if you need to sit, feel free to go grab a chair and roll it around. Apologize, I thought I put out enough chairs. That's on me. How have you grown as a CMO from the very beginning? So I like to say like entrepreneurship is like a mirror looking back at yourself every 6 months and realizing how stupid you were 6 months ago, right? Like every single 6 months you're growing so tremendously. Do you feel like you went through an insane growth at different times of the company, and what are some of those tangible things that you feel like you grew as?
Yeah, I mean, in the first few years, it was like just obsess over catching the revenue is what I call it. It's like, how can you optimize the checkout experience, the landing pages, everything that's post-click? Because then you just need to get more traffic, and it's always going to convert. It's like an ATM. I think about landing pages. Is your website converting high enough? Then it's a traffic problem, not a conversion problem. So I always focus there, and then I can just keep adding on new traffic channels. So I would say over the course of my career, it was like, well, in the beginning, I'm so glad I did focus all of my energy on website converting, which is also a lot of copywriting, video creative, because most of the time, great landing pages have videos on them, and then how do you capture your customer's story? Because storytelling is going to convert way higher than, like you said, bragging about yourself. So what if you figured out ways to convert an audience by having other people do it for you? In fact, that was actually our very first software product that worked. It was called Proof. It literally just is a notification that shows on your website and says, 100 people are at Collective right now. You should buy. Like that kind of notification. So we built that in 2016, and that was our first kind of success. Showcasing to other people that there's a line waiting to buy from your business. It works by 50, it'll grow your website conversions by 15%. So if you say your headline says like, I'm the best, or if you have a quote from a customer that says, this company is the best, the difference is about 15% increase in conversion just in that alone. The framing of the same sentence being from somebody else versus yourself. Learning all these like little conversion optimization things made making every single other channel more effective. SEO, paid traffic, affiliates, all of that all works better when you know that skill.
So I have a interesting, and I'd love your opinion on this. Marketing is such a broken industry right now in the sense that like most marketers have turned to creating gimmicky, fun, exciting videos, making a social media look pretty, websites looking pretty. But you said something that I resonate with a lot is revenue marketing. Like being able to be in the marketing side and understand the sales cycle, which ultimately leads to a sale, rather than the pretty house photos, the pretty landing pages, and just optimizing for aesthetics versus conversion. Talk to me about like what that revenue marketing looks like and how maybe if anybody in here has a marketer on their team, how they can help empower them to become a revenue marketer to start driving the top line.
Yeah, it's not what any brand marketer wants to hear, maybe not even the founder wants to hear, is that ugly converts. It does. A giant red arrow on a black and white screenshot is going to convert higher than your beautiful high resolution photo that either AI generated or in a photo shoot. It just does. It's a pattern interrupt, and it's going to be a money collector. So I would say like you have to balance brand with that. Like I'm not saying there's no point in brand, but the most I ever spent on a commercial for Jasper was $500,000 on one video. Very expensive. We had a Pixar animator create Jarvis, walks on your desks, tells you, and you can talk to it all about how, actors, a full scene, right? Like, this is beautiful by Sandwich Video, one of the best in the world at video content. And it was the worst performing ad creative that we ever beautiful for setting the brand tone, positioning our brand in the marketplace as king, positioning ourselves as, oh wow, they raised, they're legitimate, our investors are happy, our team is happy, we recruited amazing talent. The whole executive team at Jasper now has taken companies public. Like, we have a stacked team, probably because of the way we position ourselves. Because nobody wants to get associated with a company that's just all like black and white photos with red arrows. But there's a time and place for everything. And so when you are trying to convert traffic, ugly works well. When you're trying to position yourself in a marketplace, beautiful works well. And so figure out like the balance between that. And you know, here's a good example. So after exiting Jasper, I bought a chain of spas. And it's a franchise company, so they send creative down, and it's beautiful. I think they do a great job at it. But I see the results. It doesn't convert that high, but it makes them look super legitimate. And then I'll send a plain text email from my receptionist's name, from a person, not a company, and it's just as black and white text. And it has all the kind of copy that you would expect a direct response sales letter to have. And then I get a call from the CEO. How did you crush the company's sales goals in a single day? I sent one email and one text. It just happened to not be from the company. It came from an individual. It asked for a conversation rather than a broadcast. And it was simple and to understand, and not beautiful where I have to read through your creative. Concise clarity beats creative cheekiness.
I love that. Is everybody finding this pretty valuable?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna open it up to some questions real quick, and then we'll jump into kind of what he's doing now. But like, anybody have any questions top of mind that they want to ask a CMO type?
How many additional like funnel pages did you have? Aside from the main landing page for specific ICP conversion, like, and where did you guys start? How did you guys figure that out? And how did you move from there?
Yeah, less is normally more. That you don't need a super long page to convert. You don't need more copy, more images, all of that. Like, both for Jasper and my new business, it's just above the fold with an opt-in. And that's what I found is like the most successful way to start. And then you can have pages after opt-in that are more long form and that are educational. So we just think about like, this is marketing 101, but awareness, interest, desire, and action. My whole intention in an ad is just to get awareness so I can get some interest. They click on that to go to the website and give me their email so they can start to consider that. And then now that they're on my email list, I follow up, retarget, do all of the YouTube content, stuff like that, to build consideration, trust, rapport, and for them to make a buying decision, which is at checkout. And so at that point, it's like, well, once I crush it for my main audience, now I start to try and optimize, which normally looks like by niching down in a vertical, or it looks like going wider in use cases. And so like for Jasper, there was a point where every Thursday I was doing that campaign to create a new use case. So now that's an entire landing page dedicated to that use case. Not a new audience, right? Like, you know, consumer brands, e-com brands, also home services, also B2B, also like every kind of business does email marketing. So that's not industry specific. But then for SEO, I start doing industry by industry. So I start doing the same thing the next year, and I go, best AI use cases for lawyers, best AI use cases for tech companies. And I just go industry by industry. I recruit their thought leader, get a quote from them on the page. I get one YouTube video, put that on the page, and I just add that to the sequence. And sometimes early on, you can begin to segment, and we can look at what audiences are using our tool so I know what to chase. So for example, I I ran an analytics report, and I saw that out of all of our customers, we had 2,000 Keller Williams agents, like at kw.com. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Do I have any marketing around real estate? Nothing. So what would it look like if I doubled down on that? So I went to a conference all about real estate. I networked with realtors. I said, how are you using AI? I started obtaining use cases, and this is like 1 week worth of work. And then I created a landing page, and by the end of that week, I completed that avatar. So now I have this matrix on my website. Ton of use cases, a ton of industries, and now they're cross-pollinating to each other, and that's a full SEO ecosystem. You match that with affiliates, and they're backlinking to those pages, it's insane, right? And so, we had hundreds of thousands of backlinks because people are incentivized that if they send traffic from their real estate YouTube channel to the real estate use cases page about here are the 5 ways realtors are using AI today. Click my link down below to get a free trial of Jasper. They get 30% of revenue. My SEO grows with every single YouTube video and every single landing page. And did I do any work besides 1 week of going in on an audience and getting super curious about how that audience uses my tool? No. And so you just, how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite. Over the course of a year, I did 52 videos, 52 landing pages, 52 emails. So by the end of the year, I now have this entire conversion sequence that is optimized across all of my channels, and they're all working together. By the time I left, our affiliate channel did 20 million in captured revenue. SEO had about 25% of that revenue. Paid traffic, we were spending $1 million a week. So did any of these work individually on their own? I don't know. Not one in isolation, but they all work together. And we did that with 2 marketers on the team.
Did that answer your question? That was
Yeah,
a great answer.
That was a great answer.
Any other questions? What we got?
Yeah, hi, my name's Tron. I'm an commercial interior architect, designer, and planner, and so ugly converts is kind of counterintuitive to building a premium brand.
Yeah.
Are there further distinctions and nuances to that, or what is the?
Yeah.
That feels very wrong for me.
Yeah. So there's 1,000 things that convert, right? So that's one of the tools that I used was ugly. Another tool is curiosity. Another tool is validation. Building authority in a marketplace. So, one of our other software tools, we had Oprah Winfrey use it. She hosts this meditation with a guy named Deepak Chopra. And so it showed 80,000 people are meditating with Oprah right now. That's like a live feed. And that was our tool that we added on her site. And so just by making Oprah Winfrey on our page as a prominent figure, we borrowed her authority in the marketplace to position ourselves as king. We want to go back to podcasting. So we launched a podcast, not the reason that you would think. We did it purely for positioning. We launched a podcast because we wanted 12 logos on our homepage that made us look like we were for big companies. And we were only getting bought by solopreneurs. And so I was like, okay, well, how can I solve that this month? It's going to take a really long time for me to go and recruit and close a bunch of clients that are big companies, but maybe I could get them to do a PR thing where they come on and meet with us and talk about the topic. And by the end of the month, we had a podcast that released that had all of the logos that were our dream customers that we had podcast episodes with, and now we could say hey, we are this for that market. Look at all the people in our ecosystem. And all the content that's on our social channels is with these big brands that you all know about. By the end of the month, I solved the positioning problem. Each of these is just a problem to solve. So I launched a podcast to solve that problem. And I just called it a series. I didn't call it a podcast because I knew I was going to end it at 12. But by the end of 12, now I had enough content for people to binge. I had a positioning power. And 3 out of those 12 people that we interviewed closed for high ticket contracts. So we ended up closing actually on some of those clients, positioning ourselves in the marketplace and moving up market that way.
Can I answer your question?
Yes.
And maybe a deeper conversation to have. He'll stand around if you want to ask him a little deeper on like how to position that, because I can see your struggle, right? Like pretty aesthetic spaces is the market that you work in, but some things that popped in my head is like talking about how to make a conversation space. Like now take individual spots in the architecture space and talk about them specifically. Bring in maybe someone who's a professional at conversation or conversational space, and like be curious about, hey, what makes you feel more comfortable to have a conversation? Talk about the conversation in the lobby of the big commercial building, right? Like totally random concepts that nobody thinks about. But restaurants, like go talk to big restaurants, grab their logo. He said, in order to have a successful restaurant in the lobby of this big commercial building, you have to have these items. Now you put his logo and a quote about putting aesthetic spaces in these spaces, right? Like totally random thought process.
Here's a way you could do it in your space. So the green screen effect on Instagram? It's where like the little face is on, but then you have the green screen of like you're scrolling or you have a photo behind you on social. Yeah, so that can be beautiful. And then, it does look like a little stitched together where you're like on top of that and you're like dragging your face around on the beautiful canvas. So what I would do if I were you, you're trying to land some big clients doing interior architecture for B2B. Is that, getting that right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is, who are my top 6 clients I don't have yet, but I want? If that positioned me in the marketplace as the leader, and then I would just do a make-believe, and I would say, let's say for like Airbnb's office, I'd be like, Airbnb just launched this new office behind me. I think they did it all wrong. Here's what I would do differently. And then, you say, I would do this, and then snap, and then it changes to your version. And then here's what I would do for the sitting area. Here's what I do for the lunch area. All this, right? So now I'm just snapping through, and it's very like your vision. It's representing what you would do. Now, what if you had 6 of these as the square when people come to your page? And now you have WeWork, Airbnb, and all these other beautiful offices that you would completely reinvent. And now when your ideal customer comes to your page, you're like, oh, this is my kind of person to use.
It reminds me of that girl that did you guys might have seen this, where she was a logo and like apparel designer, and she'd be like, I'm gonna recreate the logo for this NFL team, and then do like the goofiest, most hilarious apparel and logo and like hand drawn, but she was a logo designer. It's like, she's showing the worst case of her work, like it's not even close to her, what she does, but it's comedic, it's funny, and timely, which draws attention to her page, where they see the real logos in the work that she does, right? Like almost way over, like you could put a comedic edge on that of like, this is what I would do to that space. In Airbnb, I would put a house, they rent houses, I would put a house in their lobby, like something crazy. But just like random thought processes that are obviously wrong could work, and then redirects them back to your page where they see your really pretty renderings and drawings and stuff like that. Any other questions? We'll take one more.
As someone who's been involved with AI in such an early spot and where we're at today, where do you see marketing leveraging AI in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years? And follow-up question to that, how the hell does anybody keep up with it?
Yeah, where
Perfect
marketing
segue into agentic society, by the way. So we should talk about that after.
where marketing is going, I believe, is small teams doing 10 times the volume. I think that you could, like, if you're going to learn a skill, learning AI is like the #1 skill you can add to your skill set right now. You pair that with learning how to make money, and like that's marketing, you're gonna do super well in life. I think that the kind of marketing, like attention is humanity. Like that's all we care about. Like that's all the human being cares about is attention. Where does our attention go? What do we care about? What do we invest in? So learning how to capture the bouncing ball and say, attention's over here. This is how you do marketing. So I think more than crushing it at a single channel, it's learning where is the channel? Where's the attention? Then I would go into like, okay, well, how do I see bottlenecks in that channel and solve it? with AI is one of the ways. So like, the way Troyer has been able to automate the reviewing of analytics of which campaigns are working well with AI, that's a bottleneck for a lot of media buyers. And so he just solved that problem and now scales huge brands. This is what changed with email marketing. It's like the amount of effort it takes to write a great email is a lot. As soon as automated email came into play, that like solved a huge problem. And the companies that jumped on that won the inbox. And you can do that at scale. I think that where marketing is going in the future is trust is paramount, personality, and being the face, or having at least a person in your company as the face, is necessary. I don't think that faceless brands are going to work anymore. And the more that you can build a brand that matters and stands for something, a community that's tribal, that feels like this is a part of my identity by using this product or service. And I know that's hard for all things, but if you can speak to the emotional side of that and not just always like solving a problem, because that's so transactional. But if you can really build a relationship with that client, that customer, then that's going to give you a better chance at retaining them in the future when there's a cheaper, faster option in the future, because AI is going to make things always cheaper and faster. Doesn't always make things better. And so that's the key, is like, how do you build that brand, that reputation, that trust factor? And so I think personal brands are really important today. And I think that building community among your people, the people that buy from you, is really important. Certain channels, I'm not going to say like whether TikTok versus Instagram Reels is better. I don't really think that way that much anymore. I think so much more about like wherever our community wants to be is just where I'm going to tap into more. So by whoever's the closest to the customer is going to win. I think that if you can be that brand that gets that close to the customer, there's a brand in Austin that's crushing it right now my wife is obsessed with called Shelter. It's like a lotion company. It's because the founder replies to every DM, and she's improving every batch of product. And it's like, that's the kind of thing that is going to work in today's day and age.
All right, we are out of time, but I want you to give me a 30-second elevator pitch on Agentic Society real quick.
Yeah. So after exiting Jasper, the thing that kept me close to the cutting edge of AI is every 90 days, me and my friends would get together and we do a hackathon. In person, we'd sit next to each other and show each other how we're using AI. And it was the first time that I ever used Lovable to vibe code a website. It was the first time that I ever saw my friend double click his keyboard and whisper into his computer. And then the whole screen changed. I remember the first time that my friend said that he hit his first $100,000 a month, and he's a solopreneur. And he has AI agents that are doing sales, marketing, and customer success. And so I found that having a room of people every 90 days that keeps me on my toes, and where I can have steel sharpen steel, where we're getting together, that was like the key for me to stay on the cutting edge of AI. And so, yeah, I thought, for this past South by Southwest, I did a kickoff party. OpenClaw was all the rage, and I saw the way that people were using it online, but it seemed very gimmicky. It seemed like very much like, hot air, and I was like, what's the real shit? What's actually working? And so I said, we're gonna get together in a room for South by Southwest, and by raise of hands, if you've gotten value out of using AI agents, keep your hand raised. And I passed the mic. And all of a sudden, it all clicked for everybody in the room. Real business owners getting real outcomes. Not fluffy stuff like how to use Obsidian to make an explosion brain, but like actually like how do you really use a company brain? These are the ways that we've been doing it now at Agentic Society, is like formalizing that. In May, we did a founding member launch. We actually wrapped that up in the next 2 weeks. On August 7th, it closes. So we're basically building an in-person society here in Austin where business owners are getting together on how they build a fleet of AI agents where they can grow their revenue without growing their headcount. So we meet together twice a month on Fridays, and for 3 hours, we talk and showcase, do show and tell. And we do training on how to use AI to automate work in your business, solve constraints, and scale up your revenue. So we met this morning for 3 hours. It was a pretty awesome session. Justin was there and some others in the room too. Yeah, and like where this is going is we're starting in Austin, Texas, going super deep here. We can personalize long form sessions, really work with our clients. But then I see this growing nationwide where we're helping big companies onboard their teams, train their employees on how to use AI agents, how to automate workflows so you can make each team member more productive. So I think that's the key now. What every owner wants to hear, and what I think now is finally possible, is how do I grow a company to get big revenue without having to grow my headcount to be bloated? Because I know culture changes when you get really, really big. I saw that happen in our own company. I saw that the family ties that you have in a small business doesn't really scale up in the same way when you have 200 employees and they don't even know who you are. And I know what that feels like when you're having to fundraise because you're trying to pay for payroll. And so what would it look like if you really got AI agents dialed in this year and you're able to scale up your operations with a small team? And they have to be a smart team. You have to invest in people. And as an agentic CEO, you're the kind of leader that's willing to invest in culture, invest in people, invest in tokens, and you're going to be the kind of company that gets the competitive advantage. I think that's what it takes to win now. And so it really does start with leadership. So our community is only for the leadership team. It's executive levels, those that are really using AI and shaping the culture of their company to be agentic.
So I don't allow selling from the stage, so thank you for not selling. But I'm the creator of this, so I can do whatever I want. I'm gonna have Austin stand up here next to the sign, and I've gotten tremendous value from being in the room and just seeing. And what's unique about his events, like he said, is talking about the output or the product of AI, not the ideas of it. And there's so many ideas around AI, and I could do this, and I could do this, and I could build this really quickly, and then you build some slot product and try to put it to market, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, what are the tools as an entrepreneur that I can utilize to increase my revenue or save the bottom line to make more money, period, right? And his room does that. Like, they talk about real ideas that they implemented, how they increased their revenue, and these are the tools that I used to build it, rather than the buy my product, this is what I did, buy my product. It's not a room for selling, it's a room for showcasing ideas and really building a cool community. So I implore you, Austin's gonna hang out up here and grab the QR code, look into it, ask him some questions, and then if you have questions about CMO stuff, Austin's the guy. So let's give him a massive round of applause.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm available for questions. I blocked off the rest of my day, so I'll stick around here. Looking forward to getting to know you.